and welcome to this special episode of, I don't know what to call it. You hate it when I call it extra butter.
Bonus episode. Just a bonus. We have this every single time.
So, welcome to this bonus episode, aka extra butter, and we're gonna call this one K-pop things part 2. We're just gonna spend some time riffing on some of our favorite things going on in the world of Korean entertainment at the moment, and it's a lot. As you know, last year, 2020, became the year that we slid down the BTS bubble. And yes. BTS is like a gateway drug. They are, because it opened up this whole other world of entertainment. And as you realize, if you haven't been paying attention, it doesn't end with Parasite. It doesn't just end with BTS. Korean entertainment is here, and I want to say that it's here to stay, and I'm all for it.
So, I'm all down for it.
It's really good, and I finally, a couple episodes ago, check out episode 214. I got Tammy. 215. Or no, it was a bonus episode. It wasn't the last episode of Extra Butter. Okay, the last bonus episode, I finally got you to watch Parasite.
So but it was the one. It was the one after the Uncanny Counter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was. The 15th episode of season 2 was Uncanny Counter, and then we did the bonus episode of Parasite, right?
Right. So,
you see how that 15? Because you remember how I used to love the 5? Season 1 was all about every 5 was like something to do with Korea in some way, shape, or form, K-dramas or K-pop. So yeah,
we've come a long way.
Yes, we have.
That goes to show there are some good things about Rona. She kind of made you get out of your OCD bubble a little bit.
Yes.
Like you couldn't really schedule a whole lot because someone said that they asked me that the other day. Are y'all gonna do movies? I'm like, it's kind of hard right now. We're getting back to that though, but we are. But so hey, but yeah, and I must say that it was surprising how much I enjoyed it. Like, I don't mind reading subtitles now at all.
I will say that, yeah, I have become the weird person who, even when I am watching regular American television, I still have my subtitles on just in case I miss something that I can read it. Or if I don't necessarily fully hear what they're saying, I know that the subtitles is going to tell me. So I don't have to rewind to go back to kind of make sure I listen closer to hear what they're saying. I'll just be like, oh, okay, cool. And I can continue watching the show. So I am that person who I don't watch regular TV anymore without subtitles.
Yeah, I'm not that person. Definitely not that person. It drives me. But I found myself, I was watching a Spanish drama, and the dilemma was subtitle or no subtitles. And the dubbing, if the dubbing is horrible, then I will do subtitles. But the dubbing wasn't bad, and you know me, I'm always multitasking. So I'm like, no, this is a perfect time for me to multitask. But yeah, so when I'm watching foreign TV now, I'll just be like, okay, subtitles or no subtitles. I don't, and sometimes I do wish we had that option of dubbing with the Korean dramas and movies and stuff, but we don't necessarily.
You don't want it? Because Sweet Home on Netflix, which it has been a huge hit for Netflix. Sweet Home is a Korean drama with zombies and everything like that. And when I first started watching it, it was dubbed, and so I at first was just like, their mouth seems weird, because I didn't realize it was dubbed. I thought they were actually speaking English, and I was just like, no, I don't think this is an English show. And then when I went to the settings and I realized that it was dubbed, I was just like, oh, let me go back to this Korean thing with the subtitles, because the dubbing, it's so off. It's so off. I think with Spanish, it clicks more because the Spanish words are closer in how they say it with English words. But in Korea, it's a whole like different thing. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, that works.
Yeah, so I would say don't do dubbing for Korean shows. It sounds weird. You're not gonna like it. It just looks really off. So I just went back to just doing the subtitles for all of them rather than trying to get them dubbed. Like, it just throws me off every time I look at the screen. I'm just like, no, I don't like it. Like, their mouths look like they're lip singing. That's what it is. I was trying to think of the concept. It looks like they're lip singing, and you hate when, like, people they're bad lip singers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah. So, and I find myself like, I know you're all into the world of Korean entertainment and pop culture. I follow certain people and certain things, and it's just because of everything else, I don't get into it as much as I should or I could. But so I leave that to you. But one of the things I have noticed is that I'm not going to say the stars, maybe some of them, but just in general, they're all about that Western expansion as long as we're spending our money and paying attention to the entertainment part. But they don't like it when we get into the other parts, when we call them out on their, I'm just going to say
hypocrisy? Oh, my bad.
Yeah, their hypocrisy, their ignorance about certain things, especially when it comes to race. And a friend and I were having this conversation the other day, and you hear a lot about Korea being racist. And I'm not going to disagree with that. All I'm going to say is I can't say that I'm not going to say all of it comes from a place of malice. I'm going to say it comes from a place of ignorance, because you have to realize how homogenous society is. And when you haven't been exposed to those things, you don't necessarily always realize that what you're doing is offensive to someone else. And when I've seen it, instances of some people, when they get called out on it, it's like, oh, I didn't realize, forgive me. And then, of course, you have some people who continue to push back and be like, fuck it, and you get that anywhere. But so I can't say that, like, here it's been ingrained years and years of institutionalized malice. And you do have some people who just don't give a fuck and are just bad.
I think that what you said is correct. When you grow up in a country where, I think as growing up in America, we may have a different view because we see it all over. Like, we see the diversity. Now, everybody may not accept the diversity, but the diversity is all around us, except for when you go to, like, rural areas. Because in rural areas, most likely you're only going to find people that look like you. All right, and we know what the main people are. But, like, when you think of, like, a lot of Asian countries, no, they don't really interact with Black people. Not to say that there aren't Black people, because I'm starting to see, like, there are Black Koreans and Black Asians, definitely, but it's not enough for it to actually be where everybody can have some type of dynamic with another race, so that they know that cultural appropriation is real. And you shouldn't be having dreadlocks, because that's just not your thing. No.
Or the goatee, the grills. But I don't think grills look good on anybody. Like, when Post Malone and they were going through their faces with grills, I'm like, grills don't look good on Gucci Mane. Like, I'm not that person.
And I feel like grills is like it's kind of like a southern hip hop thing, right? Like, it's more because it kind of shifted up north where I'm from, but, like, how I noticed it was that grills was more focused in the South, and then that was just a trend that kind of went all over the country, where not everybody wanted to support some grills. And I agree with you, it looks nasty.
Like, you got $1 million sitting in your mouth. You could have thought it's something else to do with that milli. Like, yo, here, I'm taking donations.
You put it in your mouth, though? Like, when you gotta eat and stuff? Like, come on, yo.
But
I definitely agree with you on that. But I think that the more that you want K-pop to be, the more K-pop becomes international. And yes, we can thank BTS for doing that. And there's other groups. You can thank BTS, EXO, GOT7, Big Bang, like, certain groups that Blackpink has definitely brought it to the forefront. We're making K-pop so, huge with international fans that I would think you would start educating yourself on different cultures. And you realize that they haven't been doing that. Like, there's no real education on other cultures now, where that needs to be a class for idols, I feel, nowadays. Compared to when, you could just chill out because you only wanted to catch as many Asian fans as you could. But now you're trying to go international. Like, please get to learn other cultures.
Yeah. And
understand what's acceptable.
And so, and I get it. Like, I read that where, I can't take credit for having that thought, but I read it from Naomi Osaka, who is half Japanese and half Black. And she was saying that, when they were asking her about Japan and Asian countries being racist, and she said, yes, but you can't say that it's necessarily from just this place of malice. She said more or less it comes from a place of ignorance because of how homogenous those societies tend to be. And yeah, you do have people, you have expats who live there, and I think the more popular these places become, because they say Seoul is becoming like a little New York now. And just how Western,
the price of an apartment, it definitely is becoming a little New York.
So, and I think that it becomes the catch-22, especially when you're dealing with the government and different things like that. And that's one of the things I love. Like, I love the entertainment, and we've talked about it. One of the things I don't like about K-dramas and stuff is just how chaste they are. Like, and I'm not necessarily talking about the YA ones, because I get it. And we've had this conversation before. And I think that when you're dealing with a certain demographic, sometimes here we can be too explicit about certain things. Yes, we need to be realistic about the kids are becoming.
But you don't have to show it. You don't have to show it. People know that there are teenagers who,
are having sex, and you don't. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to show that. I think that if you're showing it in an aspect of some of the things that they're going through, some of the pressures they may feel to have it, that's a whole different thing. But just to do it, to be gratuitous about it, and to over sexualize that does bother me. But on the other hand, you can't show them kissing. Kids kiss. It's okay. It's okay to kiss. It's okay to hold hands. And that I'm like, okay, that's not realistic. That drives me crazy.
But it's not even the kids. It's the adults. Like, that's what throws me off. Is that you have grown adults that ain't virgins. And it'll take like 9-10 episodes before they have their first kiss, or before they actually acknowledge the fact that they like each other, but they're doing like little taps on the head, and they're doing like little hugs. And I'm just like, these are grown people, right? Like, like, come on. They've been in relationships before. You mean to tell me like they've never done anything? Like, is that what we're supposed to believe right now? So that can definitely be annoying, on not seeing a realistic like relationship in a lot of the popular dramas that are out there.
Yeah. I understand that. I get that. So it's kind of crazy how that drives me crazy, especially with the adults. I agree with you on that. I'm like, yeah, can we, it's okay. Society and culture is not going to burn. How do you think, if that happens? But on the other hand, they have no problem with the violence and the cussing.
Now, granted, with the subtitles, they do
add some of the cussing.
Yeah, like, because what is it? Like, how, while we only like I forget which curse word it is that is always bleeped out. Oh my gosh. There's like a curse word that's always bleeped out. But nowadays, like, over time, you can say majority of the curse words and they're not bleeped out anymore. Like, it's just common conversation because everybody says them now. And I think like maybe what it is that South Korea they're so far behind us on progression, on that kind of level with their entertainment, because they were so isolated with their entertainment. They were focused on the fan base of like Japan or China, other Asian countries. And now you're going international, and you have to realize, like, you can have cursing because I know your people's curse. Okay, we hear it, and we only because we know what the curse word is, because that's the first words that you learn when you learn a different language. Is you learn the curse words before anything else. But yeah, like they try to still be very conservative. Like they can't show tattoos on TV. That's against the rules. So they have to cover up all of their tattoos, especially when they're performing on TV. Because I know JK does that a lot with his tattoos on his hands, and he always has long sleeves on because of the tattoos that go up his arm and everything like that. And there are other K-pop artists that have to do the exact same thing because they get fined for their tattoos showing on national TV.
Yeah, and I was telling a friend, we were talking, about it, and I was like, yeah, tattoo shops are illegal. And she's like, but what? And I said, they're underground, but they're not underground. I was like, they're popping up so quickly that the government, they really, I said, unless you just do something, they're really not trying to shut you down anymore because they're everywhere. And I was reading an article about how, Jay Park that has helped make it popular, and his popularity, and because you see you see the idols with them, you do. But you'll see more of their rap and hip hop stars with them, and they'll show them. But yeah, when they are on TV, they are more or less covered up. But so I was like, yeah, and when I read that, because I read that after you see all these people with the tattoos, and I know JK's tattoos were a big deal for a different reason because BTS is the national treasure. But
they're supposed to be the perfect example of perfection.
Yeah, so I was like, and JK's like, let me live, dog. Like, fuck that. And I love a good rebellious spirit, so that didn't bother me. But I was like, what? When you see, and so when I read that, I'm like, and it, me, it's one of those things where I was like, I did not just read that. I'm like, how the hell? And so I actually went and I Googled it and I did research, and I'm like, holy shit, they are. Like, it is it's pretty much illegal. Like, you could get busted for getting a tattoo. And I'm like, damn, here we are trying to legalize weed in all 50 states here, and y'all just trying to get legal tattoos. Like, the progression, not that that's something to brag about, but that's where we are in culture. And I'm not complaining about it either. Texas needs to get on the bandwagon, but that's a different story for a different day. We're not going to talk about that.
That's all Eddie, y'all. That's all Eddie. I'll be very conservative about that.
Hey, that was one of the greatest songs of all time. Mary. Okay, never mind. Anyway, but we know they do that too, but we like I said, we're not going to talk about that.
They get arrested for that, though.
Yeah, we do too, depending on where you are.
But it's a whole different ballpark when they get arrested.
A whole different ballpark, and it has ruined or set back an idol or two's career, getting caught with the sticky green and all of that. So it is really a bigger deal. And I guess, like you said, that just goes to show how just conservative they are. And I can now, BTS being the national treasures, I can say that I do appreciate their activism coming out against the norm and making things like it really. I'm going to say I was impressed, and it surprised me. And we talked about it briefly about last year, and especially when this was a time when I was always a casual fan of BTS, like a song here or there. But the more I kind of went down a rabbit hole and actually became a fan, I was really impressed when they donated to Black Lives Matter, especially when they didn't have to. And it wasn't something that they did for clout. It was something that they did quietly, and it kind of became a bigger thing once Army matched that donation. So it's like you can accredit them for bringing things like that to the forefront. and making, am I saying this right? Bringing more light to those issues. I know they are big supporters of the LGBTQ community as well, which is also, it's taboo here too, but it's really taboo there. So when I see these things starting to be addressed in K-dramas, I appreciate it a little bit more, and I realize I don't want to say the risk that they're taking, but just how forward thinking it is in that culture to make those kind of dramas, or to start featuring those characters more and more. Is that making sense?
No. I agree. I also watch. I've watched a couple. They call them BL dramas, boys love dramas. Mm-hmm. And I've watched a couple of them. I have a couple of them that are on my favorites list that I thought was really, really good. I will say that one thing that they do, because I guess they truly lack the knowledge of, I guess it's based on who's in your writing, who's in the writer's room, right? And we always say that, like, no matter what it is, if you're going to have scenes where you're going to have people of color, you need to have people in the writer's room that can actually write about those experiences, because we have different experiences based on our race, our ethnicity, and our culture. And I want to say the same thing for the LGBTQ community. They have these dramas, and a lot of times the ones that I've watched have been very stereotypical. And it's been where they make it seem like it's unnatural, or like it's forced upon them. Like, kind of going back to the idea of you must have been touched when you were younger, and that's the only reason why you can be gay. Kind of thing, or you're very, very uncomfortable on it, or it's forced upon you, kind of thing. Like they have a lot of dramas in Asia, talk like about the gay characters, because mainly gay. Like I don't know where the lesbian dramas are, because I've never seen any. But when it comes to gay men, they have that a lot. So I think that goes back towards their conservatism, and I'm slowly seeing that change the more dramas that they have that come out like that. But I think it all goes back to isolation, and now you're opening yourselves up to Western influence. But how much of Western influence do you want?
Yeah, it's kind of like I say BTS was the gateway drug. The Western is the gateway drug. It's like you can't pick and choose which part of it you want. You got to take the good with the bad. And if that's what you're opening, and you've been here even before BTS and all of that, just, I'm a political junkie. I'm a news junkie. Been hearing about how South Korea does want to open up, not just for, the geopolitical, but their culture and their economy up to more Western.
Because that's the only way they'll survive. They were dying beforehand,
and it's like, okay, but and I'm asking myself, is it Western or is it modern? And because I was telling some people the other day, as much as I love America's fucked, like, it's my country,
but America's not the only Western though.
Exactly, and that's what I was saying. I'm like, the grass isn't always greener, but you tend to think when you hear Western, the first place that comes to your mind, maybe not so much the last 4 years, but generally, the first place that comes to your mind is America, and we have our own sets of issues, and we can say that, or anyone who's looking closely can just say what it is. And if you live here and you're paying attention, you realize just how fucked we are in a lot of issues and situations. Again, different show for a different day, but it's just, you can't pick and choose which parts of Western society you want to allow in. If you want it all, you're going to have to take it, especially with social media, and a lot of that is and over the last year influencing the fan base, because we haven't been able to get out to concerts, and so
we're focused more.
You're focused more, and you have a lot more of it coming in, because now that is how a lot of these groups are getting their popularity. they're having to do stuff on social media, virtual concerts, more YouTube content, more Twitter content, more IG content, more TikTok content, and that's open to the whole world, you know. And so it's just like you see a lot more of those opinions coming in, like you can't do this, and you have to respond to it. Like one of the things we've talked about is they seem to have a huge bullying problem, and that scandal has rocked everything from K-pop, from their music to their mainstream entertainment, their TV and movie stars, and it's a lot.
Just regular society.
Yeah, and just watching now, we have bullying issues. We have it here. Everyone's, you know, and I'm not excusing it, but their shit seems to be on a whole nother level. And as I watch some of these shows, I'm like, if every show that we watched, in some way, even Itaewon Class, because it starts off when he's in high school. If every show that we watched has alluded to the problems that they have, and I'm like, okay, this is what made it past the censors onto TV. So I would hate to see what it's really like, because you know these stories keep coming from somewhere. And as you listen to or read about the stories that some of these idols, what they did, what they experienced, what they've gone through, and what they've done to other people, I'm like, and then to sit there and see that teachers allow it, like the adults just stand there and allow it like it's commonplace. And the richer your family is, the more you're able to get away with it.
Yeah, and the thing is that you have not even because I made a list of all of the dramas, and I have watched like over 30 K-dramas. Yes, I'm completely obsessed, y'all. And you have not even watched like the absolute worst of it. I watched a show called The Heirs, where it's like the richest of the rich, like the 1% of the 1% of Seoul's population goes to this school. And the bullying there is like on a whole nother level of putting kids in hospitals. Like it is horrible on how they do, dumping food on them, tripping them up in the hallway, ripping their clothes up, throwing acid on their face. They just had a story. They just had a news story in South Korea where a teenage girl had acid thrown on her face. Why? Because another girl was jealous at how pretty she was. And so because she was jealous of how pretty she was, she threw acid in her face. So I was like, oh my gosh. And so it's a beginning story. So like they say they're investigating and everything like that. But from what I got is that there was no true reaction from the school on this whole thing. It's just like the schools don't know how to deal with this situation because maybe because once again, it's become such a huge worldwide thing that we see it and we are reading this news stories and everything like that. So you can't brush it under the rug the way that you normally would. And they have to also look at the fact that a lot of their teenagers and a lot of, I guess the millennials within South Korea, their mindset have changed. And so they're not okay with this the way that their parents or their grandparents were okay with this and just consider it to be part of society. Like, they're not okay with this. So they're definitely speaking up more on the sexism, the homophobia, the bullying, like all of that is coming to the forefront. It's crazy because I'm like, if it's that serious, like Uncanny Counters, that whole thing, I'm just like you said, if that's what came on TV, how much more extreme is it in person? Because there is no way all of these shows can have these same kind of bullying scenes and it not be a reality within their society. There's no way. That cannot be everybody's imagination. That absolutely cannot be everybody's. And some people say that, like they're like, oh, they just take it to the extreme. And I'm just like, this comes from somewhere, y'all. Like you cannot just excuse this as just an everyday thing, or it's just TV. I said, no, this is really going on in real life. They have a huge teen suicide problem based on bullying. How a lot of kids who commit suicide, it's like one of their top, I think it's like there's number one or number two most teen deaths is from suicide, from bullying. And I'm like, what? I was like, that's crazy. Like, yeah, it really pisses me off.
Yeah, like it makes me think like, okay, they need definitely it gets better campaign definitely needs to go there, and the bullying comes from what I've seen. Like you said, she did the acid because she thought the girl was prettier, and in a lot, just watching it, I can say that. I say this with all the love and respect in my heart. They're kind of shallow when it comes to just from watching the shows, and like we talked about true beauty, that she wasn't ugly, she just had bad skin. We all have bad skin. I know colorism is a big thing there. They don't want you to be too dark, and I'm like, well, but you love Black people and their culture, but you don't want to be too dark, No,
remember, they like our rhythm, but they never like our blues.
Want our blues, and and the colorism thing, especially for Black people, it hits home because we also have that in our society and our culture. The whole. So that's something different, but it's just like, okay. So I've noticed that in a lot of ways, like, oh, that tends to be a little shallow. And if these are the things that you're being bullied about, just mostly for your looks or where your family comes from or what you dress like, it's like, okay, so the other issues that we're dealing with here, gay kids, trans kids, like all of that, I would.
They haven't even gotten there yet.
They haven't even even gotten there yet.
But because I know, like, you really don't keep up on it as much, and of course, like we said in the very beginning, I'm really, really huge on like, K entertainment and everything like that. There was the first trans soldier within their military committed suicide. It went through a lot, and
I remember that story.
Yeah, she ended up committing suicide. And it was a huge thing. Like it was a big story within, because it's a reflection on your society, and you having to acknowledge the fact, like, yo, some of this stuff is real shitty, and y'all need to start having these conversations, because you have teenagers like that. Like you do have like, y'all have a whole city which city is it that is like their
Busan,
like the gay cap? Yeah, I was like, say, like, you got your gay capital. Like, you have your gay section. Like, you got your village within Seoul, where all the LGBTQ community, mainly, that's where they live, because you want to live around people who
they have their monstros, for those of you from Houston.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy on that. I feel like they're really slow on dealing with it. And granted, I guess we were really slow as well. We're just further ahead than they are. But I'm just like, they need to catch up real quick. Especially if they're going to continue to push BTS and these other K-pop groups out there, especially with the whole skinship concept that they have within their culture, which is fine. But skinship in South Korea, definitely translates to other terms within other countries. So if you're trying to have us be educated within your culture, you also need to start educating yourself on other cultures and other groups of community and groups of people. And I don't feel they're really doing that as well. I don't know.
Yeah, like, yeah. And we've talked about it offline or off air. Like, I don't have a problem with the skinship.
Whatever.
Yeah, I would. And I make it my mission to make everybody love BTS, or at least respect BTS. And then kind of because they'll ask me, like, how did you get into BTS? Because all my friends know that if it's something new and different, then I'll give it a try. And I was just like, okay. And And I told everyone from the beginning, y'all should really check out BTS. That was even when I was just a casual fan. I was like, okay, I kind of get it. And then within this past year, it's gone. They're like, whoa, BTS to this, and this. And so this weekend, I was visiting a friend, and I was like, okay, it's my birthday. We got to watch BTS. And they did. And she came away. She's like, wow, I did not know. I have more respect for them now, right? And I was like, okay. And we were talking about the skinship and the makeup. And I'm like, and she's like, I said, you get used to it. I said, the skinship is a take on our whole idea of toxic masculinity, where we have to separate ourselves from what has been ingrained into us. Like, men are supposed to be hard. They don't hug, they don't hold hands, they don't touch, they don't express how they feel about each other. Like, that's just, I hate saying this, but that's just some gay shit, quote unquote, right? But they want to promote the skinship, but they also want to promote it as a ship until it becomes but God forbid it actually is a real ship in real life. Like, it's not something for the cameras. Then that's when they have a problem. So again, it's like you're trying to walk that fine line of having it both ways. As long as it's getting us clicks and likes and it serves as great clickbait and a great way to make money, it's good. But God forbid two members or two guys or two girls really fall in love with each other, then that's something that we absolutely cannot have and will not tolerate, And then I was watching this other video from these influencers, these two influencers, and I forgot what they call themselves. I think they call themselves ordinary Korean guys. They're funny. And so they were talking about,
yes.
They were talking about how makeup isn't just an idle thing. Like, they were saying that women in Korea, they like you hairless. And I'm like, I actually like some facial hair. And so Sugar, on one of the V Live, Sugar was saying that B was on, and it was B, Sugar, and J-Hope. And B hadn't shaved, and they were like, do you shave every day? And he was like, no. Do you? And they're like, no, we don't have to, because they have to electrolysis. So Sugar had he said he can't grow any hair anymore because he had the lasers. And the same thing with J-Hope. And V was like, oh. And I'm always curious to what they would look like. And I guess some eagle-eyed army saw that he had a little bit of fuzz on his face, and I'm like, what? I'm like, huh? But
they actually did pictures of him with a full like with a mustache, and like if he was to actually grow his hair out, and I was just like, he still looks gorgeous.
Yeah. And so, but they were saying that they shave their armpits and their chest because women like, now I don't like a hairy chest man, I just don't, but and so I was like, oh, okay. But they were also saying that wearing makeup is a normal thing, not like the whole idol thing, but just men putting on foundation and having some color in their face and having maybe a lip, like a Burt's Bees with a lip tint or something. And I'm like, oh. And so and that's what I was telling my friend. I'm like, you get used to it. I said, trust me, the makeup that they have on now is nothing compared to the makeup that they used to wear, coming from second generation to third generation, where it was just like that thick, like full, But I was just like, now it's no more than just, okay, they know they're going to be on camera, so they have on their stage makeup, like George Clooney doing a movie, they put makeup on. And I'm like, but it just happens to be a normal thing. I said, so there are some things you just realize are part of their culture that you get used to over there. But so we'll see. But I don't know what else is going on in the world of Korean entertainment.
Well, I know, like, the reason why I first brought this up is because we were watching True Beauty, and once again we saw like the whole bullying thing, and there have been many stories coming out about the celebrities, and just the reaction of people when it comes out that someone that you really loved was a bully in school, using the excuse, well, they were kids, they just didn't know any better. Or, well, I mean, I still love them because they're great actors and actresses. And I'm just like, isn't that the same thing as when you have celebrities that are criminals? and you'd be like, oh, well, they were just amazing in that show. I'm not going to stop watching it. We're not telling you to stop watching it, but how can you still support them knowing like the bad things that they've done? Especially if you were at one point, like, you know, bullied, or you know what it's like to go through something like that and how traumatic it can be, and the fact that a lot of people don't get over it just because they become an adult one day, you know?
Yeah. And like I said, I agree with you to a certain extent. And here's my thing about it. I'm really the optimist in me. I believe people can change, and I damn sure know I'm not the same person at 15 that I am now. I was bullied growing up. I've always kind of been that weird kid, believe it or not. I know who would ever think that I was the weird outsider kid. And I've always kind of just marched to the beat of my own drum. And some people the people I considered my friends, when I look back at it, yeah, I was bullied. Even, but then on a flip side, you can say that maybe I was also at one point in time maybe a bully. Maybe I did things that I'm not necessarily proud of, maybe to just fit in, that weren't within my personality. So I'm definitely not that same person. But if it came out today that I unintentionally did something back then that I don't remember, to hurt someone's feelings or to hurt them, then at this point in my life, all I can say is, you know what? I am truly sorry. That is not the person I am today.
But have you ever physically bullied somebody?
Does a fight count? No. I know what you're saying. No,
yeah.
I've never physically bullied somebody. And even then, I'm still loath to hold someone completely responsible for something they did at 15, 16 years old and say that is the same person they are now. So what I'm saying is, when these scandals come out, instead of going on the defensive and just, if you did it, if you were an asshole kid, admit that you were an asshole kid. I can forgive that. I really can. I understand that people change, and it kind of goes to what we were talking about yesterday when I told you the new ruling from the Supreme Court, how they basically say that you can give a juvenile life in prison, not holding account to the fact that this person can change, and we all do stupid shit when we're a teenager. You know, the scale and the level varies, but we've all been there, we've all done it. So I can't necessarily want to hold them responsible, but for those who are still that same person, and you hear those same things, and you hear them not wanting to take responsibility and say that they're sorry, you know, then that's where I have a problem. Going through all those links to just like deny it or make you seem like you're crazy. And that one story you were telling me about that actress, she's just
the one, yeah, manipulated. I'm still watching the drama that she was doing the same time. So there's a real popular K-drama actress. She's really big. For anyone that has Netflix, she's in one of the most popular dramas on Netflix called It's Okay to Not Be Okay. And then it came out that she manipulated her boyfriend in 2018, telling him that he could not have any love scenes. He could not have his co-stars touch him at any point. He could not be nice to any of the females on his TV show set. And following through, and he had, anxiety issues and everything like that. And she really, really manipulated him. And some people was like, well, it's not her fault that he was weak-minded. And I was just like, oh my God. So that is not the issue. She took advantage of where he was mentally and got him to do something that they say doesn't necessarily fit his personality, because once they broke up, he went back to who he was beforehand. So it was really a manipulation. And the whole time she was having love scenes with her co-stars and everything like that. At the same time, she's telling him to be extremely mean, which brings up a different thing of the experience of his co-star in that TV show, on how she must have felt knowing that he didn't even want her to touch him at all. Like, she couldn't even put her hand on his shoulder.
Considering they do fully clothed love scenes, that's how ridiculous are you?
Yeah, like just literally a hand on the shoulder, and you wouldn't even let her put her hand on your shoulder. Like, you would just be like, no, we're not going to have that. We need to have some separation, some space between us. So that definitely becomes an issue. And there have been actors who have basically had their career put on pause because it's come out with the stories of them being bullied, and at first them trying to deny it, and then realizing like, no, you can't deny it. We got one of them who actually joined the military in order to take a 2-year break. So when he gets out of the military, maybe his story of being a bully will have been forgotten, and because he's a gorgeous guy, really, really, really gorgeous. And I can see the fact of you kind of be blinded by how good looking some of them are. And so you ignore, their bad traits, and you forgive them easier, because a lot of these bullying stories that are coming out are for people who they were like 16, 17, 18 years old bullying, and now they're like maybe 22, 23, 24. So it's not like there's a huge gap of them being in their late 20s or 30s, and all of a sudden these stories are coming out. No, like they're still really young. In their careers when these stories are coming out of them being bullied, and then you hear that they haven't changed and they're exact same way. Now, granted, not all of them. Some of them have changed. Many from 17, he was just a bystander who kind of let his friends, which I'm sure all of us can say that we've done, where, you got that one bully in your group friends and you just let them be who they are. And, that's who he was. He would just kind of let his friends bully other people, but he never truly participated in it. He would just laugh at it, and he was a bystander. And, you don't have to accept it. But that's an issue that they're definitely having, is that they have some real extreme bullying. It's not like, I can understand the bullying where like, we're going back and forth. I'm making fun of you, not to say it's right, but okay. But you have it where like you're making them run errands for you. You're calling them your shuttle, because that is the name that they give for everyone that they send to have to get stuff for them and everything like that. There's a difference between doing that kind of stuff or like physically abusing people compared to, teenage stuff where, you're just talking outside of your mouth, I guess I want to say. Not to say it's right, but there's a huge difference between physical abuse and mental abuse, where you're literally breaking somebody down, compared to like, regular, I want to say regular teenage, bullying, because bullying is going to happen, but there's a difference between that. And I think the more extreme is definitely a problem. Like our lovely V from BTS, he was bullied when he was in school. So, and definitely, like, I think him being an idol and kind of having his brothers around him definitely has helped him to heal from that experience that he had. But because he still won't talk about it. Like they say, like he refuses to talk about, the time in school when he was bullied by other kids. So I'm sure that still kind of like, hit him hard when he thinks about it, but,
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with what you said earlier, because there's some, there's certain things from your childhood you remember, like the good and the bad. And so I'm not going to say definitely all I remember are bad things, because that's not the case. And even from the group of friends, like I'm not really friends with those people now, just because life, and I'm not saying they're bad people, and I'm not saying they're the same people. I wouldn't know them to say that at this point in our lives, but
they just not your peoples.
Yeah, they're not my peoples, but I do know that some of the things that happen, they still pop up at weird things, and at weird times, and they do affect you in weird ways. So it's not something that you easily get over. So I'm not excusing it, and like I said, I'm not excusing the pain and trauma, whether it was physical abuse or the mental and emotional abuse that anyone has experienced. All I'm saying is that we've got to allow for people to grow and change. And
That's true.
and if they say, hey, and I stick to what I said earlier. You know what? I was a different person back then. I was an asshole. I'm sorry for the pain that I caused, that type of thing. And sincerely mean it, not just as some PR stunt. I can deal with that. But on the flip side, when I hear people say, well, they're just this and it ranks up there to me. And I know these are two extreme cases, but with two people who are so beloved in the Black community, or were, Bill Cosby and R. Kelly. You still have people to this day who are riding on them and who want to excuse their atrocious, horrible behavior. To bring it a little bit closer to home, one person that I still have a difficult relationship with as a fan is Chris Brown. As talented as he is, and the fandom changed, and it wasn't ever I was never one of those people who Rihanna deserved what she got, or she went back to him, so she okayed it, she forgave it. It was one of those things. You're young, it comes, bipolar, all this other stuff, so we'll see. But then, the behavior continues, but he seems to be doing okay. It's just a really hard thing. I can't support him like I used to, but it's just like, when do you allow for forgiveness, and when do you allow for someone to change? Are we always going to hold somebody, judge them by their worst mistake or the worst time in their life? So it's just a really fine line. But I think we have to try to find a way to, but then some people, when they show you who they are the first time, you got to believe them, because especially if they continue to show you that's who they are, that they will not change. And I get that, and I understand that. And so, I guess that's something that we're all grappling with in every society, but they seem to have it really bad, especially when it's so ingrained, not just in their idol culture or with idols, but just their everyday life and with the kids. And, that's kind of...
I do hope that the more that Western influence comes into South Korea, and they also start to influence the world through BTS, but also through all the other groups that are coming out and the dramas coming out, especially on Netflix, that's made a huge deal to acquire all of these K-dramas, that they slowly start, well, not slowly, that they quickly progress and they modernize their culture, and they allow the younger generation to start to take over, because they do have an issue with their population being older skewed than younger skewed. So definitely, and I'm hoping that definitely opens up the conversation to seeing the changes that need to happen and more acceptance that needs to happen, because there is amazing things to love about the South Korean culture. Of course, but.
And the one thing that they don't like talking about is the mandatory military service. Everyone says the politically correct thing, especially if they're famous. And some are okay with it, but the more I read about the younger generation, they're like, and it's just, and someone else was saying that, not just about the military, but they were talking about something, and they were like, look, I love my parents. I think it's about the tattoos. And they're like, my parents don't get it. My grandparents don't get it. I love them, but I got to live my life for me. I got to be happy. And, it's no disrespect to them. It doesn't reflect how much I love or care about them. It's just me, And so I think that's where they are, that shift in that society. But we still have a lot of that here too, don't want to make it seem like we're living in a fucking cracked glass house that, trying to throw stones, because our shit is way cracked.
But yeah, so on that note, it's not beautiful on either side. The grass is never greener, y'all.
Never greener. It's just
never,
different.
Ever
trust me, our shit has really been exposed over the last 4 years. So, but that does it for this edition of bonus
popcorn wind down. Bonus episode of the popcorn wind down.
Extra butter. Be sure to check us out daily at thepopcornwindown.com for your latest on entertainment, pop culture news, and just other things we're throwing up on the website. That is our plug. Pop. Be sure to check out the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Like, subscribe, and listen. And until next time, as always, we appreciate you for joining us. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Bye.